Okay, hello. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing out there? I'm JP with Book of Hours, and this is the Daily Report. I'm going to adjust my microphone here. Sorry for the noise. Okay, that should work. Um, well, welcome. Today is the first day of spring. It's the spring equinox. For those of you who don't know, the spring equinox is similar to the autumnal equinox, which is basically the equal amount of light and dark. So you have 12 hours, allegedly, well, depending on where you are in the world, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of nighttime, 12 hours of dark. So that's why they call it the equinox. So this is the point where, in between the extremes of the summer solstice and the winter solstice, where you have, more light or more dark according to, whatever the season is and where you are in the world. Divided into the north and south hemispheres. And for those of you also who are keeping score, generally, if you live on the equator, you get 12 hours of sun and 12 hours of night, no matter whatever time of year. So, okay, enough of the physical geography lessons. I hope everyone's doing okay. And I'm going to place something in the chat here because we are still in our fundraising period for March. And we are now $180 short. I want to thank Rod for his donation. Thank you very much. He is somewhere in the United States.
South Carolina, I think.
South Carolina?
Okay.
So. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Rod. We really appreciate that. For those of you out there watching, Rod used, I believe, PayPal. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So, like I said yesterday, if you've got an extra Lincoln, an extra Hamilton, an extra Jackson, hell, if you have an extra U.S. grant, I'll take it. An extra Franklin. Let's see. Richard says, looks like I'm the only's rascal on YouTube. Happy vernal equinox from Pennsylvania. Yes. You said use instead of yins. Yins tube. Yeah. Well, happy vernal equinox. And by the way, vernal is the same as spring, folks. Vernal meaning green. Okay. But happy equinox. Oh yeah. So anyway, you can help us out. Yesterday I mentioned that you can use Buy Me a Coffee. You can go to Buy Me a Coffee, and that is at. Let's see. I've got it here on the. Let's see if it shows it all. No, it doesn't show the last one. Oh well. Buy Me a Coffee is at Buy Me a Coffee. That's one word. .com/book of hours. So it's BUYMECOFFEE.com/book of hours, and you can do that. On that screen, you'll see there's somebody left a message, a comment, so you can talk to us on Buy Me a Coffee as well. So that's kind of cool. But otherwise, you can use patreon.com/book of hours to become a patron. You can subscribe to Substack, bookofhours.substack.com. You can use PayPal like Rod did, paypal.me/book of hours, or CashApp, $Book of Hours. Okay. And then, of course, buy me a coffee. So we're getting down on our, getting there on our $500 thing. We're at 100. We have $180 to go. So if 9 people gave us $20 each, we could do it. And the reason we're asking for you for money is because more than ever, we need to keep the lights on. I mean, literally, we need to keep the lights on. This isn't about just paying for our internet's connection, our ISP, our domain name, and all that stuff. This is literally about paying the power bill. So power here in Mississippi is expensive. Not sure why. I think part of it is because it's so damn hot during the summertime and we run the air conditioning just like everyone else. And this is a modern house, so it's not built to have cross breezes like they did in the 19th century. So we depend on modern means of cooling. So if we do, one thing we do have, we have lots of shade. So that does keep our house a little bit cooler than maybe our neighbors. We have 8 live oak trees on this corner lot that our house is situated amongst. And it's kind of like camping. It's kind of like camping. You walk outside this time of year, it's very windy. Not as windy as like other times maybe, but yeah, it's spring, so it's a little windy. And we've got lots of leaves coming down. These are live oaks, so they're not deciduous. They are green all year round, but they do shed their leaves at a certain time of year. And this is that time of year. So there's a lot of leaves in the yard right now. That said, we do have a lot of shade, so that's kind of cool. Once again, paypal.me/bookofhours, Cash App, $bookofhours, buymeacoffee.com/bookofhours, patreon.com/bookofhours to become a patron, and subscribe to Substack, bookofhours.substack.com. Okay. Cool. Well, today we're going to talk about something else that's going on. And if that one doesn't go long enough, then I will read from something else. But today we're going to get into a little woo. And the thing is that, I've been admonished in the past for believing or talking about this kind of thing, but I really believe that this is true because we are people who are made of water and electricity, and we exist in an energy field in our own planet, and I'm sure, just like our planet, that we get affected by other bodies in space. The moon does affect the Earth and its gravitational pull with the waves, but also the the word just escaped my mind. The water that goes in and out. And then, but also, it affects people, especially female people. So, why wouldn't bodies that are also in our solar system affect us? So today we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde. And we're taking this from the cut today. And this is titled, "This Mercury retrograde is going to be real rough." And the reason we're bringing this up is because Julie and I were sitting around yesterday and going, why is everything kind of like messed up? I mean, like more than usual. I mean, we've been dealing with the messed up since the beginning of the year, but it seems like everything's been kind of weird. Communication goes awry. Technology is kind of weird. And that's because that is the calling card. That is the hallmark of Mercury in retrograde. And this happens every quarter, okay? But this particular quarter is apparently going to be kind of rough. And here's why. And there's a nice picture of the moon. Oh, and this is written by Eliza Kelly. She's an astrologer and a cut contributor. Just when you think you finally have your life together, astrology will remind you that everything is actually hanging on by a thread. Fine. On March 15th, Mercury retrograde begins again, and it's time to send in the clowns. For the next 3 weeks, Mercury will appear to move backward in the sky. And that's what they mean by Mercury retrograde. It appears to move backward in the sky. It's not moving backward. It's the tilt of the Earth, the way things are, lined up. And it appears to look like it's going the other way instead of the way it usually goes. So Mercury will appear to move backward in the sky, causing very real miscommunications, technology meltdowns, and debilitating headaches. Welcome to 2025. Keep reading for exactly what to expect from this Mercury retrograde and how to survive it. Wait, so Mercury retrograde right now? If you're reading this on or between Saturday, March 15th and Monday, April 7th, 2025, yes, Mercury is currently retrograde. Lucky you. I like this writer. She's about as snarky as we are. Great. What exactly is Mercury retrograde? Astrologically speaking, and I imagine astronomically speaking as well. Oh, but astrologically speaking, Mercury is the planet of communication, which means it governs everything from conversations to schedules, cognition to computers, transportation to transactions. So this is speaking from the astrological point of view. Typically, Mercury is pretty predictable. Whatever zodiac sign Mercury is occupying at any given moment reflects how this swift-moving celestial body gets the job done. For instance, when Mercury is in Leo, it's theatrical and expression, whereas when Mercury is in Scorpio, it's intuitive and strategic. But when Mercury shifts into its quarterly retrograde spin, it enters the flop era, and so do we. Mercury retrograde is the astrological equivalent of an old-timey slapstick routine, slipping on a banana peel, stepping on a rake, and getting smacked in the face by a swinging door, all while you're just trying to send a simple email. During this 3-week downward spiral, misunderstandings abound. Emails go missing, flights get delayed, and everyone suddenly forgets how to act like a normal person, which is truly the last thing we need right now. Because let's face it, and that's not in the text, that's me speaking. Let's face it, everything, like nobody really, well, a lot of people out there are not acting like normal people, like their brain is missing or something. You know what I'm talking about. Why does this Mercury retrograde feel extra horrible? Every Mercury retrograde has its own flavor of disarray, and this one is 1 part impulse, 1 part confusion. This Mercury retrograde begins in the sign of Aries, and from March 15th through March 29th, you should expect unnecessarily hot tempers, bold declarations that age like raw milk, and technology failures that make you genuinely consider becoming Luddite. And I have to say, Julie and I have both experienced those things around this house in the last week or so. Aries is about action, so this phase might make you feel like you must respond immediately, even when you really, and I'll add an extra really shouldn't. Then on March 29th, Mercury slinks into Pisces and all bets are off. Even when Mercury is functioning normally, this planet struggles in Pisces. Facts dissolve, communication gets a little too abstract, and logic takes a back seat. But when Mercury is in retrograde in Pisces, big yikes. Conversations loop endlessly. Decisions get postponed indefinitely, and what seemed like a solid plan turned out to be smoke and mirrors. If Aries retrograde was all about reckless action, Pisces retrograde is a fog machine, blurring the lines between fact and fantasy. Mercury in Pisces doesn't just make you forget where you put your keys, it makes you forget why you needed to leave the house in the first place. But that's not all. This Mercury retrograde is taking place at the same time as Venus retrograde and eclipse season. And award season, too. Miscommunication meets relationship upheaval meets karmic plot twists. Yes, it really is that bad. I'm having trouble communicating. How do I survive this Mercury retrograde? Mercury retrograde isn't the apocalypse. It's just an inconvenient, albeit predictable, pain in the ass. The best strategy? Assume nothing. Double check everything and give yourself permission to pause. Reread your texts before hitting send. Confirm plans 10 times. And don't take every frustrating delay as a personal attack from the universe, like yours truly does. At least now. More importantly, don't let the retrograde rush you into decisions you'll regret later. Aries will tempt you to act before thinking, while Pisces will make everything feel hazy and uncertain. This key is to slow down. The key is to slow down. If something feels urgent, sit with it. If something seems unclear, ask questions. And if something falls apart, remember, sometimes Mercury retrograde doesn't cause chaos, it simply reveals what was already unstable. Mercury retrograde is a time for reflection, review, and course correction. And if you use this time wisely by embracing patience, flexibility, and a willingness to rethink your approach, you might just come out the other side with a fresh perspective and a clearer sense of direction. So, back up your files, preemptively draft an apology text. I love that. And don't let these celestial snafus get the best of you. Mercury retrograde isn't here to ruin your life. It just wants to keep things interesting. I mean, the world might be collapsing, but we still have a sense of humor, right? Right. Who's going to feel this Mercury retrograde the most? While Mercury retrograde affects everyone, Aries, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo placements will be front and center for the next few weeks. Aries may struggle with impulse control, and Pisces will feel like they've totally lost the plot. As for Gemini and Virgos, these two signs are governed by Mercury, so anytime this planet goes backward, they go a little haywire. Mercury retrograde will impact Aries. Aries is confidence and subconscious patterns. It will impact Taurus's intuition and personal boundaries. It will impact Gemini's ambitions and long-term goals. It will impact Cancer's reputation and personal beliefs. That's not good. Yours truly, Moonchild here. It will impact Leo's travel plans and emotional connections. Oh, big deal. It will impact, sorry, if you're a Leo out there, I apologize. It will impact Virgo's psychological breakthroughs and close relationships. It will impact Libra's important contracts and daily interactions. Right, Julie? Okay. It will impact Scorpio's calendar management and creative inspiration. Oh, wow. So sorry, Scorpio. That's all you get. It will impact Sagittarius's romantic intrigues and emotional processing. It will impact Capricorn's family dynamics and social life. It will impact Aquarius's communication style and budget. And it will impact Pisces' financial priorities and self-discipline. Okay, so that's the scoop on the astrological front. I would probably like to read this one. The spring equinox is ushering in an astrological vibes shift. But two things. One, it'll go to a paywall, and I don't want to do that. And two, you probably had enough of the woo today, so I will go on. And it is now about 20 after the hour, so I'm going to read you something else. But I thought that was kind of funny, kind of interesting, because, I think a lot of us do feel these things and we don't know how to describe them or understand why things go awry when they do. But, it's like I've noticed Mercury in retrograde often will affect things, especially technology. I didn't realize that Mercury, astrologically speaking, represents communication, and it's the great communicator, I guess. So that makes a lot of sense, because there's been a lot of weird miscommunications out there in our world right now. Okay, so what I'm going to show you next. Oh, and okay, so you may have seen a blip there. Speaking of yeah. Oh, well, Mercury in retrograde. Chrome browser gave me a little spinner, and then it was a little sketchy. We're still on air. It's still going. Anyway, so yeah. So I'm going to go to the New York Times because, that the morning email is the go-to, right? So the morning email from the New York Times. Good morning. Today, you'll hear from the New York Times chief economics correspondent, Ben Castleman, who weighs evidence about a possible recession. Oh, great. We're also covering executive power, Volodymyr Zelensky, and MetroCard, which I don't know what that is, and we probably won't get into it. A Trump recession? And this is, Ben Castleman. Okay, he says, I cover the economy. Good for you, Ben. Is the U.S. economy headed for a recession? Stocks have plunged, and especially stocks have plunged for, and I said this yesterday, for Tesla. Yay! Anyway, sorry. Stocks have plunged, so measures of consumer and business confidence. Forecasters expect slower growth, higher unemployment, and faster inflation than they did just a few months ago. And yesterday, policymakers at the Federal Reserve said they agreed. Here's a graph of the S&P 500 since the election. So back in November, we were down just above 5,700, so about 5,800. And now we are down to just above 5,500. So it's a 7.6% sink, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it looks like a lot on this graph. The administration has announced and then delayed tariffs. It has ended, then restored programs. Even some experts are sympathetic to President Trump's aims, worry that businesses will pull back on hiring and investing in the face of so much uncertainty. You think? I mean, this shit has already been going on. So anyway, a word that the chairman of the Fed used repeatedly in a news conference yesterday. So, he used the word uncertainty. That's always fun to hear, especially if you're a corporate, leader, because they just love uncertainty. Most forecasters still don't expect recession. Corporate CEOs, they'll use the word uncertainty even when there's no uncertainty. Okay, that's how much they love to use that shit. Because they'll find any excuse to cut back on employees or your pay or pay increase or even your bonus or something, just so that they can get an extra bonus. Most forecasters don't expect a recession, but they say the chances of one have risen sharply. A turnabout from when Trump took office. How likely is a downturn? In today's newsletter, I'll explore 3 big questions about the Trump economy. I'm sure you will. Because remember, this is from a liberal point of view, so, they're going to have a spin on this one. 1, actions versus feelings. So far, the evidence of a slowdown comes mostly from soft indicators. These are surveys showing that businesses are more reluctant to hire and invest, and that workers are more worried about losing their jobs. Well, you know what? This author should just fucking go to LinkedIn and see how worried people are. They're worried about getting another job, not about losing their job. I said this already, but this shit's been going on for a while. Okay, hard indicators. Measures of actual activity haven't shown the same weakness. Job growth was solid in February. Bullshit. For example, it was solid in February, for example. Retail sales slumped in January, but rebounded last month, although less than forecasters had expected. Attitudes almost always change before actual behavior does. Okay, that's interesting. A company that loses a contract today probably won't lay off its staff tomorrow. No, it'll lay off its staff before it loses the contract because it has a good idea that it's going to lose it. An employee who hears a rumor of job cuts might not immediately cancel a long-planned vacation. No, they won't hear. They'll hear the rumor too late is what that's all about. And then they'll have to pay for their vacation. And even when behavior does shift, it takes time to show up clearly in the economic data. Okay, so here's a consumer sentiment index. I never trust these graphs that they put on here, but let's see what they got here. Because you always have to do the math to really figure these out. But visually, we're looking at from 2010 all the way through 2024. Okay, so it went down, of course, during the 2010 to 2012 time. So that's Obama. It goes up and up and up, and then there's Trump at a peak, goes down towards the end of that time because that's when COVID was declared a national emergency. There's a sharp drop, and then it goes up a little bit because of the Trump bucks, and then it goes down when Biden is in presidency, goes up a little bit more, but nowhere near where it was even in the Obama era. And now it's dropped again down to where, not even quite down to where Biden was president. So we're not down that far. Wow, the Biden drop in between around 2023, maybe 2022, 2023 is lower than it was in 2013. Shows you how much confidence people had in that presidency. But it's also possible that falling confidence won't ever translate into real world decisions. I doubt that. Consumer confidence was low through much of the Biden administration, for example. Okay, this guy, I don't like the way he writes. But let's see. Consumer confidence was low through much of the Biden administration, for example, but actual spending never faltered. And evidence suggests that the sentiment measures have become less reliable in an era of extreme partisanship. Okay, so they're having a hard time reading the tea leaves during the extreme partisanship. How determined is Trump? Trump made tariffs a centerpiece of his campaign last year. Okay, you remember that? You know what a tariff is? A tariff is basically taxing goods and services, or mostly goods, coming into the United States from other countries. So those tariffs are taxes that are placed on the goods coming in. And he wanted to slap huge ones on China, but he started slapping them on Canada and Mexico too, which allegedly we have a trade agreement, but I don't think that, either one of those things, the NAFTA didn't help anything, and neither did the tariffs necessarily. Okay, enough of that. Trump made tariffs a centerpiece of his campaign last year, but many people on Wall Street didn't believe he would follow through, because he's the Catskill comedian, right? A lot of things he said he wouldn't do, he didn't do, right? So in the past, anyway. This is a different Trump administration, though. So, because now we have Doge. So people on Wall Street didn't believe he would follow through on that, in part because if he did, stocks would fall and Trump would reverse course, which is exactly what happened. So far, that has been a losing bet. In his first term, Trump worried when markets fell and bragged when they rose, because that's what he does. But when stocks fell after tariff announcements this month, he disregarded the sell-off and refused to back down, because that's another thing he does. Markets are going to go up and down. So he says markets are going to go up and they're going to go down, he told reporters last week. Well, that's nothing but an obvious remark. He and members of his administration now suggest that a period of economic pain is necessary to balance the economy. And then they have a link here to a paywall article that says, hardly any economists agree. Still, Trump could change tactics if the slump worsened, which, whatever. He has been doing that. 3, is there a cushion? Coming into this year, most forecasters expect economic output to grow about 2%, adjusted for inflation. That's slower than 2%, 2.5%. Slower than the 2.5% it grew last year, but it's a long way from a recession. Yet even before Trump took office, some forecasters warned that the economy was not as strong as well-known indicators, like the unemployment rate, suggested. Hiring was slowing. The housing market was frozen in place. Consumers were saving less and maintaining their spending. Well, I can tell you why that is, all three of those things. But anyway, here's another graph. Economic policy uncertainty index. Uncertainty, it's such a hard sciencey kind of thing to indicate, right? You can measure that really well. But it's looking like it's just about as high as it was in 2020 after the Trump bucks. So, oh, I see. This is the uncertainty. Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's pretty high. Does not indicate goodness. It indicates not goodness. Okay. All of these things were pretty obvious even in December. Neil Dutta of Renaissance Macro Research, a financial firm, he argues that a slowdown in growth was inevitable this year, regardless of who won the election, which would mean that Trump is operating with less of an economic buffer than most people believe. Okay, so let's look at that again, or let's not. Maybe we don't have to look at it too closely, but there's always uncertainty in the transition from one administration to the next. So this is kind of, Captain Obvious here. Okay. Maybe with the, Trump is operating with less of an economic buffer than most people believe could be true because of what's gone on in the past. But I'm going to tell you something that I heard. I was working for Optum, which was part of the United Health Group. And BT got murdered, and we talk about that a lot. BT got murdered in December, and UHG was already planning to do a massive layoff before that happened. They were going to do it in December, which is pretty awesome considering that it's the holidays were coming up, and they again sarcasm. Sorry, sarcasm. It's not awesome. It's I'm being sarcastic. I'm being seriously facetious. I mean, who lays a bunch of people off right before the holidays at the beginning of the year when it's like really hard to find work? Anyway, they didn't do that only because of the Brian Thompson affair, which would have made them look really, really cold, which they already are, but it would have made them look even colder, which they already are. Okay. The economy has repeatedly proved doubters wrong in recent years, and it may do so again. But it doesn't take a recession to cause real hardship. Even a mere slowdown in growth could leave hundreds of thousands out of work, which it already has done. And if history is any guide, send Trump's approval ratings through the floor, which it already has done. That's the kind of outcome presidents usually do everything in their power to avoid. Why are economists so bad at forecasting recessions? I tried to answer that question in this piece, which is behind a paywall, I wrote a few years ago. Okay, so that's the end of that article. So I mean, as we've been saying, things are pretty serious out there. There's people out of work, thousands, hundreds of thousands. They're saying it could be that, but no, it is right now. It is that right now. And if you go back to that graph where they were showing what was going on with the Biden administration, that's the reason for it. Okay. At the beginning of the year, I heard, I was sitting in a meeting, and the manager 3 steps up from me was saying, so this year it looks like it's going to be pretty good, and we're making a profit and everything looks good. And I thought to myself, nuh-uh. When they say that
means jobs will be fine.
Yeah, that means heads will roll. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So this is just basically, a Captain Obvious report. coming across and telling us what we know already, and just kind of like giving it, some shape and form. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on with their headlines real quick, because let's see. So they have the latest news: government overhaul. Trump is trying to consolidate control over the courts, over Congress, and in some ways over American culture. Times political correspondence, right? Okay, so we talked about this a little bit yesterday, right? Where he's acting like a fucking dictator, okay? Because there is such a thing as separation of powers, and why I have to give a civics lesson to the President of the United States is beyond me, but Trump plans to sign an executive order today instructing the head of the Education Department, Lynn McMahon, to begin dismantling the agency. The department cannot be closed without Congress's approval. And again, it comes back to what we were talking about yesterday. But at least this time he knows better than to release the hounds of Doge upon the Education Department, because he got his wrist slapped for doing that last time with the USAID. The administration appointed 2 officials who helped dismantle USAID to be the agency's new leaders. Oh, that's, again, sarcasm. Awesome. The Doge dogs. What happens after a judge reinstates fired federal employees rather than returning to work? Many are trapped in limbo. I know what that's like. Steve Davis, a longtime Elon Musk loyalist, is effectively the leader of Doge. Okay, so remember yesterday when I was reading how they were saying that basically, and these were the government lawyers of the Trump administration that were saying, oh, well, Musk isn't, and the people he's been working with, his team, aren't really the leaders of Doge. They're just acting on behalf of it. So now they put in a guy who's going to be the whipping boy, because Musk is the golden boy. He's the front man. He can't be, thrown under the bus like he has been, because that doesn't look good. So let's have Steve Davis, who you don't know, get thrown under the bus instead. Musk has praised Davis's cost-cutting abilities by comparing him to chemotherapy. Are you fucking shitting me? A little chemo can save your life. A lot of chemo could kill you, Musk said. This man is a complete fucking idiot. It's like, that is the worst metaphor I think I've ever heard in my life, especially when you're talking about something like this. Immigration. A federal judge granted the Justice Department another day to reveal the details of 2 deportation flights that may have defied his orders. And this is something that we talked about a couple days ago. U.S. officials detained a Georgetown scholar from India who is in the U.S. legally on a student visa, and accused him of spreading Hamas propaganda. Okay, that's funny. The Trump administration wanted to move the deportation case of Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia graduate and pro-Palestinian protester, to Louisiana. I guess because that's a red state, I guess. Instead, a judge transferred the case to New Jersey, solidly blue. Okay, anyway, politics. More on the Trump administration. The administration plans to suspend about $17.5 million in funding to the University of Pennsylvania, apparently because of the school's past support for a transgender swimmer. No comment. Musk donated to members of Congress who support impeaching federal judges who oppose Trump's actions. What an asshole. So this is more of what we're talking about with when we say this is fascism. Okay? They're going after people who oppose Trump and his actions. Okay, so they're and okay, I will admit, I mean, and I feel like it was more of a story than anything, when Trump was being fingered and put into court and endless, court cases and all these accused of different things and whatnot. And, Democrats were calling him a convicted felon. I haven't heard that language in a while. They haven't used that language in a while because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. But I think this is basically smoke and mirrors and just like, kabuki theater, this whole thing. But it truly shows that we live in a world of fascism right now, because, if they're talking about it, even if it's not real, there's an element and an undercurrent going on. So just stay tuned for that. The Justice Department plans to restore gun rights to some convicts, an issue that became contentious after agency officials sought to reinstate Mel Gibson's firearm access. What was he convicted for?
Who?
Mel Gibson.
I forget, but
Yeah.
it was something recent.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know if it was like a conviction or if it was just public opinion. He pleaded no contest for a misdemeanor battery charge back in like 2011.
So 2011, he pleaded guilty or no contest.
He pleaded no contest.
No contest. That's not the same thing as admitting guilt.
No.
To a fire. To a
jail time.
Yes.
This was
like 2011.
2011.
Right.
So 14 years ago.
14 years ago. So he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of assault and battery. Battery against his girlfriend. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, I have a right to bear arms too. I'll take off my shirt. No, I won't. I won't do that. Let's see. The Kennedy assassination files. The Kennedy assassination files that Trump released this week offers little new information about the shooting, but they do reveal some details about CIA spycraft. So this whole thing, I think you might talk about this tomorrow. I don't know. It's kind of a non-issue in our book, because it came out just in time to distract everybody from what's really going on. So don't look at what's really going on. Look at what happened 60-something years ago. In the rush to release the files, the administration publicized the personal information, including social security numbers, of people who are still alive. Well, that's a lot of us. I mean, I was 3 months old when that happened. Okay. War in Ukraine, don't need to talk about it. Middle East, don't need to talk about it. I wonder why this is. The MTA announced that it would stop selling Metro cards by the end of the year, a move that it said would save at least $20 million a year. I like when they include New York in their sort of like, stories about like, aimed at an audience that doesn't live in New York mostly, like it's the center of the world. Okay, let's hide that on stream. So that's pretty much it for the report. I used to have a card that I used to get on the bus in San Francisco, and it would allow me to get on the bus, the cable cars, the underground train, but also the BART system, which would go across cities, across the bay. And I could also use it on the Caltrain, which was an above ground rail system. It looked like a traditional train, rail system. And you could take it all the way down to San Jose. And a lot of people would take it from, that area to come up to the city to see ball games, like, Giants games. And for a while there, I was taking it to work, and they had a bike car where you could get on with your bike and just, put your bike, you park your bike and then go sit down. And that was really cool because I'd always get on pretty much the same train every day. And so I started to know some of the folks that were, on that train, because it was a smaller car than usual. It was mostly filled up with bikes. But, you got to know people pretty well. I liked that commute a lot. That was pretty cool. Despite the fact that I was going, like out of the city and down, a few cities down, a few miles away. I actually rode my bike all the way to to work that way. But anyway, that was not fun. But the train was cool. I liked that. But anyway, the point is that those cards are really invaluable because you don't have to worry about if you have the exact change, because most bus systems will make you have exact change, and you see that in all urban bus systems. And who has exact change all the time, right? So not sure why they're getting rid of their cards, so they can save money. I have a feeling that when they get rid of that, their ridership will go down, but we'll see. Okay, so let's get back to part of the reason we're here. That is that we are fundraising. It is March, and we're doing our March fundraiser. And we have a goal of $500, which is not a big goal, but we seem to be taking a while to get there. We have $180 left to go. And I want to thank Rod for his donation last night on PayPal. You can also help by sending us a $5, a $10, a $20, a $50, a $100. Okay, there's a lot of dead presidents there. You can choose which one you want to use. And you can do that by sending a one-time donation to paypal.me/bookofhours. You can go to CashApp using the $ Book of Hours. You can go to Buy Me a Coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/bookofhours. You can also become a patron. Go to patreon.com/bookofhours. Or you can subscribe to Substack, bookofhours.substack.com. All those many ways. And if you do not like using digital means to pay money, you can always send us a check, a money order, or cash if you feel comfortable with that. I don't suggest it, but some people have done it. If you go to info@book-of-hours.com, we can and ask us for a place to send that, we will send you where to send that to. Again, if you look up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you will see www.book-of-hours.com. Just replace the www with info@book-of-hours.com, and that will get to us. So you can also use that address to say hi, if you feel like it. All right, so we are coming up a little shy of the hour, about 10 minutes. And once again, I'm JP. This is Book of Hours, and you can help us by making a donation or becoming a subscriber at the addresses that are listed below. And it's also in the show notes. So have at it. Please give us a little support. We could use it. We literally need to keep the lights on. And think of it as a tip. Think of it as a subscription. Think of it as giving your favorite magazine some money so that they can produce the content that they do. This is more of a miniature version, so we aren't going to charge you as much. We're going to give you the opportunity to subscribe or give us as much as you want. It's your choice. So let's see. We got another... got another text here, or another comment here from Frida. I bet they are going to make those cards digital on people's phones. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good point. Instead of having a physical card, you're gonna have to use your phone. Yeah, that probably is. Probably true. Although, the way that it's probably, if you've ever dealt with showing your screen while you're trying to get into a movie or going to a concert or something. I was an usher and a door person at the Curran Theater in San Francisco before we moved. Julie was too. And if you had one of those readers and you were trying to read people's phones with the barcode, it was always a pain in the butt. So I imagine that will just slow things down. I doubt it. I doubt the technology got any better with those readers, So if they try to move to the phone, it's just going to make things worse. So slow everything down. Anyway, I'll be hoofing it across Manhattan. So, okay. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening, and thanks for subscribing or making a donation. I'm thanking you in advance because you're awesome for doing that. And thank you for everybody who's already donated. You have helped us get closer to paying our electric bill. Frida says track and trace only if they can read that barcode. So no, I know you can turn off your phone and go somewhere and turn it back on and they'll still know where you've been. Okay. So yeah, I know. Just saying. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time. And I will not be here tomorrow, but Julie will for the Friday reading. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.